Welcome, everyone, to the HeroX Innovation Leadership Speaker Series. I'm Jamie Elliott. I'm joined today by Sheldon Varghese. Sheldon is a mechanical design engineer with enFocus at Christianson Industries. Sheldon, thanks so much for joining. It's really, really great to have you here.
Jamie, it's always a pleasure speaking with you.
So tell me about yourself. Tell me about your engineering journey, your innovation journey so far.
So, my background is mostly in manufacturing and design. And for a really long time, I was figuring out what domain I want to get into, especially because mechanical engineering is so broad. So, after I completed my master's at Purdue, I was trying to figure myself out as to what I was supposed to do. Luckily, I stumbled upon an organization called enFocus, where I worked as an innovation consultant for about 2 years, kind of dabbled into different aspects of engineering. And that's how I landed myself and streamlined into design.
Nice. So what is enFocus? Can you tell me about that innovation consultant role and what enFocus does?
So, enFocus is a nonprofit organization in South Bend, Indiana, and they focus on community and industry projects. So, they have a program where they recruit top talent in the region and they rotate them through different manufacturers. I'm speaking on behalf of the industry side. So, they rotate these guys among different manufacturers in the region in various projects. Could be from process improvement, design, ERP systems, so on and so forth. So I got a chance to work with a bunch of manufacturers in the region, and that's how I transitioned into my current role as a design engineer at Christianson.
When you were at enFocus, can you talk about some of the other engineering projects and innovation things you got to work on?
So I've worked with a boat manufacturer. That was my first project. They were having issues with their bill of materials, so we had to streamline how they were pulling information. It was more of a data-based project where I had to kind of streamline their bill of materials in such a way that the engineering team, once they release the design to the ERP and once they ship out the said boat, all the material and all the components are being pulled out from inventory as accurately as possible. That was a 6-month long project. And then the next few projects that I worked on was on AWS, where I was looking at quality inspection. I was using one of their modules called Amazon Lookout for Vision, where we would inspect different components and upload them to a model that Amazon already had inbuilt and make sure that we could pick up defects from that model.
Okay. I'm curious because you got to work in so many different organizations. Each organization has its own mission and way of doing things and culture. What were the biggest similarities that you saw and what were some of the biggest differences?
So I think the major difference could be between manufacturers is there's two types of mindsets in manufacturing. Either you take sufficient amount of time and come out with a perfect product that's focused on quality. The other aspect or the other mindset is that speed to delivery. So I think between the two, Christensen is at speed to delivery. The RV industry is really competitive. So we're looking to compete really hard. So we're on that side of that mindset where we're looking to push out projects as fast as we can while we not compromise cost and quality. To answer your question, the major difference is the speed to execution.
Okay. Yeah. We see something similar in challenge competitions on HeroX, where sometimes we want just ideation challenges, and so this is a rapid, few weeks challenge where we just take in all the ideas to see, or we do rapid prototyping sprints or phases versus more industrial focused challenges where an industry says, "Hey, we've been trying to solve this problem for a really long time." And we've learned all these different ways to not do it. And so we need to find a new way to do it. And that perfection or that quality is really important.
Right.
So can you tell me about Christensen? Can you tell me some more about what you were brought into Christensen to do and what you're doing now?
So at Christensen, I'm mainly working as R&D engineer. So I work on different projects from designing slide outs for RVs. I design ladders. I design grab handles, all kinds of Murphy beds. That's my main project right now. So I work with a team of 5 people where we get to the drawing board, draw some stuff up, draw it up in CAD, and then we kind of translate those ideas with the production guys and use whatever machines we have and the constraints we have. Some of our mechanical work is outsourced just because we may not have that required machinery in house. So, yeah, that's part of my role over here. I also work as a process engineer, so I incorporate a lot of AI into my daily work. And it could be from bill of materials, managing product dashboards, all kinds of things with AI.
Very cool. Yeah, for the individual practitioner who has like accepted AI and is starting to use AI, I think we each have our ways of it working for us. How's that going in the industry? How's that going amongst engineers, or how's that going in your organizations with the adoption of AI? Is it moving along smoothly, or are there some bumps?
I think that's a really good question. I think from a top down perspective, so at the top level, I think it's really useful just because there is no resistance to that change management that comes along with AI because it's making everyone's work easier. But as we trickle down to production and even on, I can speak on behalf of engineering as well, it's not really welcome because we see it as a threat as AI taking over our role. But at the same time, we do recognize that it is making us work faster. So I think that's the kind of view on AI in companies.
We're dealing with it as well at HeroX. We're building features specifically for it because we're seeing more AI generated content coming through in the submissions, which is not a bad thing if you have the right idea. We're building AI judging to help us work more quickly when we get a lot of submissions on a challenge, and AI challenge designers. So there's different aspects where we're building it in. Do you see any risk in the decision making with AI? So when it comes to engineering decisions, these can be very, very important decisions, especially when it comes to structural things like your building and safety.
That's a really good question. I think there is significant amount of risk when it comes to utilizing AI, especially when you're making an engineering decision. The key is to have your recommendations validated. Luckily for me at Christianson, I think most of our products need to have some kind of RVIA regulation tied to it. So if you, for example, for the ladders that we design over here, they get tested and make sure that they're meeting the load bearing capacity under RVIA like regulations. And maybe we've designed those ladders from recommendations given by AI. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that we do validate that recommendation. So it's foolproof like that. But if you're not in a domain where you're having your things validated and tested, then I would strongly suggest to be careful and cautious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky thing because it's empowering us to explore so many new things. But if those new things that we're exploring aren't our domain, then we have to have some checks in place. I think the good thing is with engineering, it's an industry or a domain where those kinds of checks need to be there anyway. Even if a human is designing these things, like we have to check it, we have to test it for safety. Any really cool projects or cool stories that you have from the things you've gotten to work on or build, or customer experience stories where you've gotten to see it make its way out into the world?
Yeah, actually, I my very first project at Christiansen, it's a really simple project. It was there's this camper trailers. They have a spare tire attached to the back of the trailer, and they require to have a light carrier kind of hooked on. And different RV companies, their carrier looks different, so we had to come up with something that sticks to this tire to meet the road and safety regulations. So I remember my manager at the time just drawing up something really silly and small, like that looked like a boomerang. And we cooked that up in about 10 minutes and we sent it out for lasering. And now it's on, I think, about the 30 to 35 units that go out monthly. And we're talking about 350 units annually. We're making like, it costs us about $7 to make and we sell it for 18. So we're looking at close to over 6K profit in just something that we cooked up in 10 minutes.
That's fantastic. That's great. And you mentioned just now lasering, sending things out, and what you just described was kind of rapid. And you also talked about the rapid prototyping. What does that process look like when you guys come up with a design or an idea for a solution? What does that process look like for how it gets from your team to the client the first time?
So it starts off with me and a couple of other people out here just ideating on paper, drawing things loosely, and then we translate them into CAD, make sure that we think of all the constraints that are going into this design. Because when you draw stuff loosely, your mind is as creative as can be, and you're not really thinking about the constraints. So once we translate them into CAD, we know all the constraints and how accurate the design needs to be. And then I would generate a DXF file that's used for lasering purposes. And then we send it out to a laser machine. And it's iterative in the sense that the first iteration is not always the right iteration. So about 3 or 4 iterations until we fine tune the thing. And then we send it out to our customer for approval. And more often than not, we have a good sense of what works, what is going to work for them. So once we all feel confident about what we have done, we send it out.
So at the time when you're putting things on paper, you have loose requirements of, hey, this is what this thing needs to do. You have structural requirements of size, weight, possibly material. Then you have requirements and maybe nice to haves from the client, like, hey, we would love if it could do this. And then you potentially have safety standards, regulations, and things that you have to adhere to as well. Is that right?
That's true that we look into all these aspects before we send it out.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very I find it interesting because it's a similar process with challenge competitions. When we get to work with someone new and they're trying to solve a problem, we don't have the answer, but we have this massive worldwide community that does. And so we have to understand the problem that they want to solve and then all those constraints as well as those nice to haves. And those nice to haves are what turn into our judging criteria. It's like, okay, well, the ones that can meet the majority of those are more likely to win after we've established the baseline and they've met all the minimum requirements, right? Yeah, it's a very similar process. Cool. Yeah. So how does the relationship work then with Christianson and you in terms of the projects you get to work on? How do the projects get selected?
We look at 2 aspects, and one is speed to execution, because that's what we focus on. So we make sure that whatever comes our way, we can deploy in-house or we can manufacture in-house, because that's important to us that we have that visibility over the process. And two, it needs to be economically viable for us. So we look at the cost aspect. We can do all kinds of things at Christensen, but at the end of the day, if it's not getting us to a point where we're even breaking even on it, we don't take that project. So I would say we look at speed to execution, and it needs to be economically viable to our team.
Any big initiatives on the horizon? Anything coming down the pike?
Right now, we're looking to shift our focus towards Murphy beds. It's something that we're kind of designing a mechanism that fits all kinds of Murphy beds, because right now the Murphy beds that are out there in the market, they flip like a flip phone only in one direction. Now we're trying to kind of make work towards that design and make it flip on towards, like, if you look at the X and Y coordinate right now, it flips over the Y axis, and now we're trying to make it flip over the X axis as well, so that whenever we do come across a project that requires that kind of configuration, we can sell the same Murphy bed instead of designing a whole new one and inserting a new mechanism in it. So we want to get to a point where we're streamlining and standardizing our products. So that's a cool thing that we're working on.
That's interesting because the process you described of client has a need, we rough sketch something for the client, that is mostly demand based from the client. But what you're describing now is kind of innovating the way you all do Murphy beds so that no matter the request. So this is more of an internal design thing of, hey, how do we do this so that, or how do we do this in a new way so that anytime that request comes in, we can do it this innovative way going forward. Is that right?
Exactly. Because the reason why we're doing that is because design configuration A, and if they're churning out 100 units of that, their brain is attuned to that kind of configuration. Once you switch that configuration out, there's room for error over there, because now the layout of the design has changed, the way they've got to insert certain nitty-gritty components have changed, and kind of plays with your mind, and you can't really blame someone for that, because once you're used to something and something new is
Sure.
thrown at you, it just gets some time to get used to. So we're trying to eliminate that and make sure we're selling the
Right.
same product and meet 2 different requirements.
Very cool. So the first time we talked, you told me, and today you told me a bit about enFocus and Christensen. If folks want to learn more about the work that you all do or get involved, where could they get news and updates and learn more?
Yeah, I would strongly suggest individuals to look into enFocus.org. If you just look them up, you can get to see the different types of industry and civic projects, and then you can get a visibility on projects that are outside the domain of design, like process improvement or community building, school projects, tree planting, all kinds of cool stuff that enFocus works on. They have a really good newsletter as well attached, so they constantly update fellowship outcomes. So you're going to see at least 70 to 80 people who've launched projects, and it's all in real time.
Great. We'll include that in the description. Well, Sheldon, I think it's really interesting how you get to work on different things and solve different problems all the time. Really appreciate your time today, and thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jamie.